Figuarts standard Dragon Ball Z Vegeta new spec was released on the 29th of July and is the second kit in their new spec line, with the first being Son Goku in his base form. These new spec kits are a revamp of the older line of the Dragon Ball themed model kits, featuring updated sculpting and more streamlined articulation that can rival their SH Figuarts counterparts. Yes, you do have to put it together yourself, and the kit does come molded in colored plastic, so no paint or glue is required. Instructions are illustrated and easy to follow, so if you've never put together a model kit before, this should be pretty easy and straightforward. All you need are a pair of hobby side cutters, which you can pick up on Amazon for a couple of dollars, and a sharp hobby knife to clean off any excess plastic from your parts. Vegeta took me about an hour to put together. No paint, no customizing, and my review will be based on what you get stock out of the box once you finish putting it together. Figuarts standard new spec Son Goku was one of my favorite figures to come out last year. It exceeded my expectations and then some, and was just an excellent all-round release that felt more like an action figure than a model kit. So needless to say, there were high hopes for Vegeta. Could Figuarts follow up with another banger, or did Goku set the bar too high for our Prince of Saiyans? I'll be honest, after seeing the initial promotional images of Figuarts Vegeta new spec, I was sorely disappointed. Whilst I could clearly see the improvements in the overall aesthetics and the engineering, there was just something jarringly off about the head sculpt. New spec Goku gave us vastly improved heads and faces, and whilst not perfect, definitely had a good CGI gamerverse kind of charm to them, especially the shouting and angry faces. But with Vegeta, or at least the promotional images of Vegeta, the faces just seem, well, bad. The hair was too narrow and lacked volume, the faces themselves were too wide and flat, the nose was too big, and the eyes just looked too squared off. But after putting the kit together and having the completed figure in hand, it's not as bad. It's not the best Vegeta head sculpt either, but it is passable, and depending on the faceplate, does actually look pretty good given the right angle and lighting conditions. I'm still not 100% satisfied with it. The hair can use a bit more volume, and I think Vegeta, unlike Goku, can really benefit from some light customizing. Maybe just a few paint apps to bring out those details, because this is actually a very well sculpted kit. The faces aren't flat at all, but the details are just lost in the factory semi-gloss finish. I think a few line details around the eyes and mouth will go a long way with bringing out the full potential of this kit. And while it may sound like I'm basing my judgment purely on the head sculpt and faces alone, having a good looking, expressive head is, for me personally, what makes a good figure great. In saying that, that's really all I have to complain about this figure, because everything else, for the most part, is pretty fantastic. The proportions are pretty good. Vegeta is short, stocky, and really reminds me of a Cell Games or Dragon Ball Z movie Vegeta. I think the neck could have been a bit taller, but I really like the sculpting, especially the legs. And again, this is Dragon Ball Z post-androids Vegeta, so he looks a little more muscular, a little more cut. All the colors you see, from the navy blues, the golden yellows, the stark whites, are all molded colored plastic, so you don't need any paint. Although if you are skilled with an airbrush, you could definitely get some shading and highlights in there to give the kit even more life and color. When it comes to the build and engineering, there's a level of refined simplicity, and what I mean by that is when you put the kit together, it's not overly complicated, and it doesn't need to be, and all the areas you expect would be a little bit more intricate really is just a basic build. There was just a lot of, oh, that's it moments during the build, and not to say that's a bad thing, because all the articulation works as well as you would want it to, but it also balances both aesthetics and articulation pretty well. I will say this though, Vegeta doesn't feel as hefty as Goku, and while it's definitely not flimsy, feels a little bit more on the model kit side, which is what it's supposed to be, but Goku definitely feels and leans towards more of an action figure than a model kit. Alright guys, so let's take a look at Vegeta's articulation. Let's start off with the head. And Vegeta does look up very far up, which is great. Pretty good down as well. His head is on a ball joint connected to a separate neck piece. So we do get some side-to-side tilt. And I don't know if you heard that, but there is a thunderstorm going on here in Japan right now. So there we go. Side-to-side rotation, not a problem. For his butterfly joints, got to be careful there not to rip out his arms at the socket. But yeah, he brings his arms in really far forward, which I'm very happy about. Look at that. A bit past 90 for his shoulders. And we do get 360 rotation as well. There is an upper swivel, there's an upper bicep swivel, and a swivel there at the elbow, so you get double swivels at the arms. So you can use either. But I guess it is a little bit odd to use that swivel at the elbow. But it is there if you do want to use it. And unfortunately, Vegeta only has a single jointed elbow, so it's not the best range, but it's decent. And of course we have swivels at the wrist and hinges as well. And I do like these larger ball swivels at the wrists, these new wrist joints. They look so much better than your standard or the previous ball joints that we had for these kits. Makes the kits feel a lot more like, I guess, you know, your import action figures. For the torso, it is broken up in two pieces, the upper and the lower. They both have ball joints, so you are going to get, you know, your swivels and you are going to get your tilts at the lower and upper half. Unfortunately, Vegeta can't crunch forward all too much. That's as far as he can go, and it's not the case of, you know, the SH Figuarts Super Saiyan Vegeta where you can actually pull the torso up to get extra movement there in the torso. But this is as far as Vegeta can crunch forward and as far as he can go back. So not the best, unfortunately. Looking at the legs, we do have drop down hips, which is fantastic. So you can get Vegeta to do almost a splits. Well, that is a split. It's a full 180 right there. Very good range going back and forward as well, as you can see. And we do have upper thigh cut. Double knees. And I'm usually not a big fan of the ball joint at the foot, as you can see, but with this, with Vegeta, it does get some pretty decent range, I have to admit. That's pretty good ankle tilt right there. And of course we do get up and down because it is a swivel, sorry, it is a hinge. And we do get toe articulation as well. So all in all, pretty decent articulation there for Vegeta. I guess my only complaint would be the torso articulation. I'm okay with the single jointed elbows. It's good enough, but I would have liked just a bit more movement there at the torso. Alright guys, let's do some head swaps, because as you can see here, the Figuarts base body is almost the same as the Figuarts Super Saiyan 2.0 Vegeta body. Albeit the neck is a little bit shorter and a little bit thicker, but everything else looks, you know, it's almost the same. I would say that the Figuarts is a little bit bulkier, which might work better for some of the heads that we have here. But yeah, let's give it a go. Obviously, not going to fit perfectly because the ball joint, the pegs don't fit the heads or the neck. So we're going to be using a bit of blue tack. And we're going to start off with the base head from Scouter Vegeta. This is the extra base non-Scouter head. And if this works well, I might just keep this head on. And I think that works pretty good. I like that a lot, actually. I feel like this is what, you know, the original Figuarts head should have been more close to. Like I said, I feel that the face is a little bit too big, maybe. But I think this works really well. Again, it's just, held on by a bit of blue tack, but for display purposes, I think this works extremely well. So there we have it. Base form 2.0 Scout of Vegeta. This is from the newest Dragon Ball Super Superhero Vegeta base head, and I think this works pretty well as well. The hair is a little bit thinner, not thinner, I mean close together, not as flared out, but I think this works pretty damn well as well. I like the look of it. Very cool. Next we have Super Saiyan Vegeta from the newest re-release, and I think this is perfect. Like the bigger, slightly bulkier, I guess, more muscular body of the Figuarts really matches this Super Saiyan head. I think that works. This works a treat. If I had an extra head, an extra Super Saiyan head, I think I would just leave it on like this. But I like the way that looks. Alright, next let's have a look at the Super Saiyan God from the Dragon Ball Super Broly movie. And this doesn't look too bad either. I think it's a little bit too bulky for this head because obviously his body gets slimmer when he powers up to this Super Saiyan God form. So a little bit too bulky, I think, for this head, but yeah, not bad. And last but not least, Super Saiyan God, Super Saiyan, or Super Saiyan Blue Vegeta. Let's get that to focus. And I think this works pretty good as well. And I guess if you have any other of the Super Saiyan third-party blue heads, that would work just as well for an evolution, or just like a normal Super Saiyan Blue Vegeta. But again, I mean, the bodies are pretty much, I mean, I'll bring it back again, but they're pretty much the same in terms of height, in terms of scale. If you don't like the original Figuarts head, which again I'm not the biggest fan of, you could use any one of these heads here with a bit of blue tack and totally make it work. For accessories, we don't get any energy effects this time around, but you can definitely use any energy effects that you've gotten in the past from older Figuarts kits or from your Figuarts collection. So just like Goku, but we do get 4 interchangeable faces, which aren't my favorite, but still much better in person, especially the smirk and shouting face. Again, if you have the skills, I'd recommend giving them a bit of paint to spruce them up a bit, or even just a matte coat to bring out those lost details. Now for the hands, and I really like what we get here because these are extremely well sculpted and we get more than enough to give you plenty of display options. Vegeta comes with a pair of fists, a set of fighting pose hands, a pair of standard open palm blast hands, a set of Gallic gun hands, and some relaxed hands, which I really appreciate because you can use them for a number of poses. Again, no effect piece, but we do get Vegeta's iconic crossed arms, which is a great addition and something that I think should be standard when it comes to Vegeta. The crossed arms are 3 pieces which are attached via the shoulders and are locked in via the folded hands at the front. Pretty simple, but very effective. I think even with all the improvements the new Spec Vegeta has over its predecessor, it still doesn't hit all the notes like Goku did for me. The build quality, the engineering, and the articulation are all steps up and make for a very poseable and fun figure when completed. I love all the newly sculpted hands it comes with, and the crossed arm accessory is just the icing on the cake. But when it comes to the head sculpts, and I can't get over it, the overall aesthetics, Vegeta still suffers a little from being overly too CGI looking. The bad kind, not the good kind like Goku represents. The body is definitely more streamlined and the joints feel a lot more like an import action figure, but Vegeta is a case of being almost there, but not close enough. A little of that has to do with Goku again being such an outstanding first release in this new Spec line. Don't get me wrong, I still very much enjoy my new Spec Vegeta, but I'm also eagerly awaiting the inevitable Super Saiyan version retool of both of these kits and seeing just how, or if they will make any improvements on them at all. I think over the years I've come to realize that Figuarts is not really an alternative to my Figuarts collection. Sure, I can probably fudge in some of the villains as stand-ins, but I think, at least for me anyway, I collect this line purely because I love Dragon Ball and I love building model kits. And if the end result is something that I can use in my main collection, then that's just a bonus. So bring on other characters we don't have in the Figuarts line, give us kits of characters or vehicles or something a little different, something SHF won't necessarily release. I'm all for it. I would love to see Figuarts give us a red ribbon pirate robot from Dragon Ball, but that's just me. But what would you guys like to see come out of this new Spec line? Let us know in the comments. And that's it guys, I hope you enjoyed the review. Figuarts Samurai Sword from Chainsaw Man review is on the way, as well as the Figuarts Goku accessory pack, so plenty more videos to come. As always, thank you so much for watching, you guys are the best. I'll see you all in a bit, but until then, yoroshiku!